In the summer of 1965, people in the Holmes County Freedom Democratic Party organized and participated in marches in Jackson to protest unfair voting practices. On the morning of June 14th, Lorenzi, who was the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party chair, led 500 demonstrators out of a Baptist church to begin a mile-long silent protest march to the state capitol. Nearly half of the marchers were in their teens. About 75 were white summer workers who had been in the state less than a week. Halfway to the Capitol, Jackson's police halted the march and began arresting participants for parading without a permit. The forceful reaction by Jackson's police served to increase our numbers and extend the protest. Over the next few weeks, hundreds of Holmes adults and teenagers joined others from around the state to demonstrate. The state protests made the same points as the National Congressional Challenge and the Holmes County Freedom Day in '64 and '65. Black residents were denied the opportunity to vote for representation in Jackson as well as in Washington. Back in Mileston, Ralphus Hayes, Henry, and I had a serious conversation. We agreed that after encouraging so many others to demonstrate, at least one of the three of us also needed to demonstrate and go to jail. Obviously, the prime local leader needed to participate in the action. Hayes was the logical choice. I also volunteered to go so Henry could remain in the county, working to bring more people into the protests and helping get others out of jail. When our morning arrived, Hayes marched wearing a neat, clean, good quality suit with his ever-present gold watch chain hanging from his belt loop into his trouser pocket. He wore his wingtip dress shoes with little decorative holes like the ones my father always wore. He stuffed 2 fresh packs of Cools into each one of his nylon socks, never careless, especially regarding his own self and well-being. In his well-ordered and methodical way, he had arranged beforehand for his own bail. Being a farm and property owner, he needed any jail stay to be short in order to keep his affairs running smoothly. Our group of adults and many teenagers from Holmes and adjoining LaFleur and Atala counties demonstrated at the old Mississippi State Capitol, which had been made into the old Capitol Museum when the new Capitol was built in 1903. I marched with 5 teenage girls from Mileston, including Hayes's young daughter, Sandra Faith. We joined the crowd, adding to the thunder of feet on the pavement. To bolster our spirits, we sang and shouted together. We knew we'd be arrested, and like Hayes, I had stashed several packs of cigarettes for my stay in jail. Not in my socks, but in their visible bulges under the waistband of my skirt and in my bra. We marched for no more than 10 or 15 minutes when the paddy wagons arrived, taking all the whites and the black leaders to the city jail, where they put us in cells with bunk beds and mattresses. All the other black adults and young people were put into cattle pens at the state fairgrounds. About a dozen other women were in the jail cell with me. On June 21st, we spent the day remembering and commemorating Sojourner, Cheney, and Goodman on the first anniversary of their disappearance in Neshoba County. Using pens, markers, and whatever we could scrounge, we created a mural on the tile walls of our cell, honoring the memory of those who had worked before us and died in the struggle. Our words and images lasted less than a half day before the guards scrubbed them away. Surprisingly, they didn't punish us for our art graffiti. We continued filling our time singing, building the camaraderie that comes with strong convictions in jail time. When I was in jail, I felt I knew better how to help others than when I was on the outside. My jail experience with white protesters, black leaders, and black organizers was quite different from those arrested in the same demonstrations and taken to the fairgrounds. We had beds and were relatively uncrowded. They were held in livestock pens. Mrs. Carnegie and her husband, Charles, at 66 and 76, were the oldest of Mileston's first 14. She was in the fairgrounds pen where she had no cell or bed or mattress. The stress of being forced to spend 8 nights trying to sleep on the concrete floor of a crowded pen had to have drained her, especially amid the continuing arrests and beatings. In addition, she maintained a complete fast during her entire lockup. She ate not even one bite of their food, more from her deep fear of being poisoned than from political or philosophical resistance. I'm sure her own extensive knowledge of Christian scripture and deep faith buttressed her through that and her many other struggles, particularly fearful regarding food. Even under normal home conditions, she had told me how someone had killed her chickens and poisoned her hogs. She didn't trust the meat sold at the white supermarket or even at Mileston's co-op. Still, Carnegie's example lent weight to our experience of protest and punishment. She touched something in me, just as I saw others being touched by her. Along with her palpable and fervent connection to the good, the just, and the right, came her vision of the bad, the unjust, and the wrong. Her beliefs sometimes evoked amused and affectionate chuckles at meetings of the movement and the church. She was respected, however, for herself, her life, and especially her willingness to go where her spirit led her. Informed by the Spirit, she walked squarely down the freedom-fighting road, inspiring others around and behind her. Hayes's bonding plans got him out of jail after only a few nights, before most of the rest of us. Nevertheless, he wore the badge of marching, getting arrested, and serving jail time. As a leader, he was the epitome of moderator, mediator, and reconciler of factions. To those who were more emotional and passionately expressive, his patience was almost unbearable. When working out details of actions, Hayes could see all sides of an argument. He would calmly invite each side to speak. Then, listening intently to the first side, he would respond with, yes, thank you very much for that fine statement. I'm sure we all agree with your point of that such and such is true. In the same polite and sweet smiling manner, he would allow the second side to speak and also would agree with that side. It was as though he couldn't allow a disagreement to exist. Yet he was neither naive nor unrealistic. That spring and summer, in his quiet way, Hayes displayed brilliance in allowing decisions to be made. His strength came from his calm rationality that stopped factions and breaks from exploding. Radicals and conservatives recognized his strength and cool courage. He faced the same angered sheriff again and again and firmly stood for what he knew were his rights. While the rest of us were in jail, Henry split his time between Jackson and Holmes, talking with the lawyers and helping the people who needed to get out and also organizing more people from Holmes to join the demonstrations. He worked primarily with Marion Wright and Henry Aronson, the two NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund attorneys, who at the time were among the most active in the state. By the time the Jackson protest was over, more than 200 people from Holmes County and almost 800 others had been arrested in Jackson.